comes up with this port idea, and it's in the works. Let's take a listen to John Kirby on the port. John Kirby being Israel's outsourced spokesman at the White House. And I don't know if there's any particular portion of this we should focus on.
Yeah, you want to start this? Here, I can pull it up. You got it. I start at 1:45.
We got some buffering to do here. We got that American-made internet. All right. Why don't you pull it up?
Well, in that clip, basically, Kirby says that it's going to take weeks and weeks and weeks to build this thing, and it's just such a joke. I mean, listen to this. Listen to him describe it, and just what everyone can judge whether or not this sounds like it's going to help the people of Gaza.
Floating dock and how long you think that might take, and how they do it without putting boots on the ground at all, connecting it somehow.
Pentagonese, this is called JLOTS, Joint Logistics Over the Shore. It's a temporary pier, floating dock, if you will, that is transported in pieces. The first pieces of it are on the way now. They left Norfolk just a little bit earlier this week. It's going to probably take about 6 to 8 weeks or so for all the pieces to get in place and for it to become operational.
So 6 to 8 weeks to build this floating dock, this temporary pier. And what's going to happen between now and those 6 to 8 weeks? How many people are going to die because they can't get any aid because Biden won't put any pressure on Israel to allow in the thousands of trucks carrying it? And of course, even his estimate there, 6 to 8 weeks, you can tell he was just putting that out there without any real certainty. And so it'll probably take even longer than that. But of course, even when it's complete, will it even be close to meeting Gaza's needs? Of course not. So it's just such a transparent stunt. And it sounds impressive. He likes to use the technical terms, JLOTS, the parts have just left Norfolk, or Virginia, wherever it is. They're all impressed with themselves, but this is just a stunt. It's a complete stunt.
Yeah, so apparently a lot of personnel in Norfolk have been taken by surprise. They're shocked that they're being deployed. They're suddenly having to say goodbye to their families. They don't understand the mission. And neither does John Kirby or anyone in the White House. I don't know if the Pentagon even understands how it's going to work out. Before I raise some questions about the actual implementation of this mission, we should consider what it was inspired by. It's actually inspired by Israel. Israel came up with this plan. Its former transportation minister, who is a right-wing, ultra-nationalist fascist named Israel Katz, put forward this plan in 2015, and it was rolled out at the IDC Herzliya conference, which is sort of like the Woodstock National Security Conference for neocons. And here's what it looked like.
יוזמת האי המלאכותי נועדה לתת מענה למציאות שרעה לפלסטינים ואינה טובה לישראל. כיום, מדינת ישראל נתפסת כאחראית לרצועה, אף שיצאה ממנה לפני יותר מעשור.
So they're going to build this island off Gaza with a two-lane highway. There's the checkpoint which Israel controls.
Turn off the volume on this.
Yeah, okay. I just, I want people to get the vibe. But yeah, it's like the Hebrew triggering you. Did you have a bad Hebrew school experience? Or?
I mean, it just, I can only, it's not triggering, but there's no point in hearing it.
No, there's not. Well, anyway, they put forward this plan for an island, and Israel can bomb this highway at will if anything untoward happens there. And there it is, and it's basically, this was the idea, was Gaza will perpetually be under siege, perpetually occupied by Israel, but the international community will supply Gaza, and Israel will check everything that goes in and be able to limit everything that goes in. And why should Israel even have to allow those trucks carrying basic goods into Gaza to traverse its own territory? Let's just put it out in the sea and just let Gaza totally drift away, which means eventually maybe we can pay Egypt off to take it as part of its territory. Who knows? Or we'll just declare it a separate country. So this is the plan that Biden is taking on.
Ugh, God.
Now we have to raise some questions here about what's going to happen with the U.S. troops going to Gaza. Israel's always been trying to drag the U.S. into its wars. And now it's sort of like who's dragging who. Israel would love to see a security incident where Hamas can be blamed for attacking U.S. troops to draw the U.S. in more deeply, especially at a time of such crisis for Biden. And U.S. troops are going to be effectively invading Gaza's waters because it's not a state. It can't claim its international sovereign sea space, which Israel besieges, won't let anything go beyond 3 kilometers. Fishermen, now people are just getting bombed on the shore for fishing just by putting nets out into the sea. But there is international law that applies here. UN Resolution 242 declares that Gaza is occupied. Israel is the occupier. The U.S. military will be collaborating then with the occupier in some capacity in violation of the international rights of the occupied population. They say they're doing it to feed them, but the U.S. is also arming Israel to kill them, which is just the most stunning, absurd hypocrisy charades I've ever seen. So how is the U.S. not invading Gaza? That's a question that needs to be put to the State Department and the Pentagon. I hope some reporters go there and ask that. But the U.S. is going to have to do something the Biden administration is going to have to do something to create some plausible deniability to that question. So they're going to very likely give contracts to shady companies consisting of former military leadership to somehow get that aid between this floating port, which itself will be very difficult to maintain, will require constant maintenance, and the Gaza Strip. And then how will it get to the population? Will Americans be delivering it? Who will be delivering it? Presumably, it will be Palestinians, like these vetted aid organizations, receiving it on the shore. But Aaron, as you pointed out, people are getting so desperate that they are running up on the trucks, grabbing as much as they can. I mean, it's a matter of survival. So who will provide security to those trucks?
Yeah, especially after Israel's attacked the Hamas police escorts that were guiding these trucks, making the deliveries impossible.
Yeah, so Hamas police aren't allowed to exist. Hamas police did a very effective job of maintaining order under very difficult conditions throughout this entire siege, and they're not allowed to exist in broad daylight. So the plan, which hasn't been officially put forward, I've seen speculation in media, like the BBC reported this, the plan calls for Israel to maintain, invading Israeli troops, those same guys that are taking selfies of themselves playing with women's underwear, rifling through drawers of women's underwear in the homes of people they've displaced and killed in Gaza. Those people are going to be providing security for the American aid mission to provide aid to Gaza. I mean, are we not recognizing what a boondoggle is on the way and how many more massacres will be committed with direct U.S. involvement? And I mean, and what about the troops? We forced to personally interact and collaborate with an Israeli military that's carrying out a live stream genocide. More can it degrade an American military that is struggling to recruit more than contextualize this as much as possible. But basically, everybody watching this, or almost everybody knows, maybe you don't know how severe it is, but everybody knows that famine is, if not looming in Gaza, starting to spread throughout the population. And this is according to plan. This is according to the Israeli plan, which has severed Gaza into three. It was part of a phased assault on Gaza that began after October 7th, but which actually is intended to culminate with a kind of final solution for the problem that Israel began in 1948. So basically, if you look at Gaza right now, northern Gaza is completely cut off from the central and southern areas by the Israeli military, which is actually planning to build a highway across the Gaza Strip, completely severing the north. They're bringing concrete factories in to the Israeli frontier of Gaza around Netzarim to actually start that plan. And then northern Gaza is intended to basically be what was once the power base of Hamas, where the administrative offices, the government of Gaza was also the intelligentsia, the most educated part of the population. It's going to be replaced with a kind of Palestinian authority, kind of collaborator entity. And Netanyahu says he wants it to be run by local clans, meaning like the local families that had previously been bought off by Israel, and I assume some of them would be connected to Fatah. Who knows if that fantasy will ever come to pass? But they've done a great job of emptying northern Gaza of about 1 million of its residents. 300,000 people still linger there, and they're on the brink of starvation. We've seen the aid convoys get attacked by the Israelis. We witnessed the flour massacre.
Multiple flour massacres now.
Multiple flour massacres. I mean, here's a graph that helps put the crisis into stark relief. The manufactured crisis. Whoopsies. That was our notes.
Okay, no state secrets in there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just don't want everyone like to get like a preview of what the rest of the show is going to be. You have to like wait.
Sure, yeah.
The situation in Gaza, this is the integrated food security phase classification. The situation in Gaza is catastrophic. Famine is imminent in the north, and it persists across the rest of Gaza.
Yeah, this study says that 70% of the population of northern Gaza are classified as IPC phase 5, which means catastrophe. So 70% not full-blown famine, but in the catastrophic phase when it comes to food. And I have one friend in northern Gaza who's been sending me updates, and it's so dire. Some of these airdrops from the U.S. have made it to northern Gaza, but my friend told me that he was worried about fighting over it because it's so scarce. There's so little of it, and the prices for food. I don't know. I mean, some people who can access money somehow, if they can purchase food, the prices are astronomical because there's none of it. And of course, this is where there was the flour massacre. The first one was in the north, right?
Yeah.
And there have been others since. And that's the situation. Famine imminent for half of Gaza. It's 1.1 million people.
Here's this is a video from southern Gaza in Rafah. This is far from northern. Well, it's on the other end of the Gaza Strip. And what it's going to show you is the border wall that the Egyptian military has set up. And at that wall, for weeks, children have been gathering, begging the Egyptian soldiers for food. And here's a child who scales a tower, protests the Egyptian side. He's declaring, "I want to die now. Why do you want to? Why don't we come down? We want to eat. We want to live. I want to die. There's no food for my siblings. There's no food." We could show some more grisly and graphic images of the toll of starvation, but as with always, we always risk demonetization and suppression of this live stream. So I think that illustrates pretty strongly what people are dealing with across the Gaza Strip. And one of the reasons it's happening, the main reason it's happening, obviously, is that it's manufactured. That Israel aimed to create a humanitarian crisis in order to force people into southern Gaza. Now there are like 1.5 million people around Rafah, and they're going to hope to push them into the Sinai Desert in Egypt and dispense of the problem they have. And the problem they have is what they call the demographic threat: Palestinians who just happen to not be Jewish, and so they can't fit into a Palestinian state. They're not very happy about being besieged, and so October 7th happened. You get the point. But in order to prevent that population from being able to stay where they are, Israel is not only attacking hospitals, like the new massacre that we witnessed in Al-Shifa Hospital during Israel's most recent invasion in the last 24 hours, removing all the centers and institutions that can sustain life, but also preventing the 2,500 or so aid trucks from reaching the Gaza Strip. So there's this fascistic Jewish nationalist blockade of aid going into the Gaza Strip. We actually have our correspondent, Jeremy Lafredo, covering this for us now, and he was at the blockade march on March 7th. Here's some of the Israeli settlers passing through a field on their way towards the Egyptian border and the crossing point with Gaza, and they're being allowed to pass through there freely. You can see the aid trucks in the distance right here. These are coming from Egypt. Everything's already been checked. Israeli Shin Bet security services has already vetted the aid. It's ready to go in, and they're going to go in and create a security incident where they're going to get in the road. Israeli police will have to interfere, and then the trucks will be stopped or sent back. That's what Jeremy observed. And these are wonderful people who are bringing their children to the protest. They've set up a moon bounce. They have all kinds of, it's like a carnival-like atmosphere. And Jeremy most recently, and this is for a forthcoming report for the Gray Zone, took a bus from throughout settlements, illegal, hyper-militarized Israeli Jews-only settlements in the West Bank, where they just picked up people and took them to these protests. It's pretty obvious that there's state support for these protests. Itamar Ben-Gvir, the security minister, is a huge sponsor and supporter. And one of the key leaders of these protests is someone named Baruch Ben Yosef, who paraded around the United States with a special visa as Andy Green and participated in the assassination of the Arab American Anti-Discrimination Committee's Western Regional Director, Alex Ode, back in 1984, and he has now his full sanctuary in Israel. He's a citizen, and he's a leader of these direct action genocide blockades that are preventing the aid in. And Biden feels like he doesn't feel like he's powerless. He's decided to be powerless in the face of all this.
I mean, talk about, teaching children.
Zionists had to cook up a fake quote,
Yeah, exactly.
accusing him of refuting his Jewishness when he obviously said no such thing, because they need to keep their fellow cult members in line. They need to at least have them believe the lie and remain in the Zionist psychological echo chamber. Oh, this guy who produced who directed one of the most consequential Holocaust films actually hates being a Jew. So we can just dismiss this and keep exploiting the Holocaust. And I love this. Here's the real, this is why celebrities I mean, they're complete cowards, yes, but this is why they don't actually speak up when so many of them see the truth. They see the genocide being live streamed. Zone of interest financier Danny Cohen rejects Jonathan Glazer's Oscar speech. I fundamentally disagree. So the rich financier condemns the artist, Danny Cohen. The real he's the real moral voice here. Is the
Yes.
I mean, imagine that he already had the film made.
Yeah.
He may be Jonathan Glazer may be risking some future opportunities, but the film's already made. But if you're up and coming and you have a bright career ahead of you, why take this kind of risk?
Exactly.
So we have this our version of the royal family. I guess it's a much more effective version because at least they're willing to like take selfies of themselves that aren't photoshopped, like the actual British royal family, which seems to be in a state of chaos and dissolution. Our version of the royal family, which are celebrities, are saying nothing, next to nothing, which kind of minimizes the scale of what we're facing. We can't lose sight of it. However, within the Democratic Party base, there's this rebellion taking place. And we saw what happened in Michigan, 100,000 uncommitted. Something like 20% of voters in Minnesota voted uncommitted, all in areas where there are disproportionate representation of younger people, college-age people. So the Democratic Party has a problem. Biden has a problem. And he needs to cook up he needs to whip up a dog and pony show to distract everyone from what Israel's doing. And Israel also has a stake in this as well. Ever since Israel put Gaza under siege in 2005, they've been seeking to displace their responsibility as the occupier onto the quote-unquote international community, whose political class, which is a synonym for the collective West, and whose political class is fully co-opted by the Israel lobby. So Biden comes up with this port idea, and it's in the works.